I am the chess strategist, and today we're going to win another chess game. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of our Rapid Speedrun. Today we are going to be playing another 10 plus 5 Rapid game. In our last game, we had an interesting game in the Carl Khan where we were playing as white, and our opponent really just not stick up for themselves. They didn't really make any great moves, and we were able to get a quick win. And today we are going to play another game. Hopefully we get an interesting one. Let's get right into it. And I'm wondering if we're going to get the black or the white pieces, and we do get the white pieces. So today I feel like starting off with d4. We're playing against Hakansha, 1588. Good luck. And we are going to play the London system today, starting off with bishop f4, and our opponent is going for a very symmetrical kind of position. We're going to play e3, and they play knight to f6, and we're going to play knight to f3. And the plan here is going to be pretty symmetrical. They want to exploit this e4 square. We want to exploit the e5 square. And we're going to offer a trade of bishops. Alright, and I want to take with this d3 pawn, or this pawn on c3. Or on c2. I want to take it so that we have, first of all, control over this square. Our opponent is not going to be able to exploit the central square anymore, but we still have the central square in the center to exploit. Alright, and we're just going to develop our knight to c3, and he trades it off. Okay. Now we do have this nice central pawn mass. We have a lot of tempo gaining moves we can start playing. But first, before we do any of that, I want to create a square for our bishop so that it's not going to get pushed back and taken. So we're going to play h3 first, so we have an open lane for our bishop to go back to. Notice we have this queen b3 / rook b1 move we can play that is going to win a tempo no matter what. So we have that in our pocket. We can play it whenever. Alright, let's go for rook b1. It's a really strong move. Just always winning a tempo is super nice in these kind of positions. Alright, and our opponent plays a rather weakening move. b6, which first of all makes this knight so it's undefended. So now we can pin the knight, forcing our opponent to defend it in some way. We're going to play queen to a4 in this position. Because of that, queen to a4 again attacks the knight. It's pinned, it can't move. So now our opponent has to play a move like this. And I'm thinking now the best idea is to break with this move c4. Or we could castle first. I'm thinking castling first is probably the best idea. Just freeing up our king from the center of the board before we make any central pawn moves like c4. Now, why do I want to play c4? Well, I'm noticing that our bishop is attacking the pawn here, or at least putting pressure on it. And we want to make that pressure larger. We don't want to decrease the pressure. c4 is also going to open up the board just generally in favor of us. And it's just an excellent move. So I'm noticing he wants to go for a queen trade. And I'm not really convinced that a queen trade is in our favor here. I feel like it kind of helps him bail out of the position. So we're going to drop our queen back to b3, and then we're going to still go for the c4 plan. We're going to put our other rook on the c file, and we're going to have a really incredible position here. The idea, of course, is when we play c4, we can take and leave him with a weak pawn. Or if he takes, we can undouble our pawns and then go for this c5 move. We can also just go for c5 in some of these positions. Like now, we might be able to play c5, which would really weaken his queenside pawns, especially if he took. I'm also noticing opening the b file might not be in our favor. He can put a rook there, but we can just drop our queen back, and it's still not really the big deal. Let's take. If he takes with one of his knights, which is certainly possible, we can drop our bishop back. And then we're going to have the nice tempo gaining move, rook takes. Okay, he wants to just trade queens, like, really bad. Like, he'll do anything to trade queens, which is kind of interesting in my opinion. I don't really think that is a good strategy here for him, but it's okay. We're not going to give him what he wants at all. We're going to drop our queen back to the c file. We're not going to let him trade queens. And we're going to keep adding pressure on this pawn. Notice how it's being attacked twice now. So he's probably going to have to put his rook. Okay, so he's decided to trade off his pawns. And this is, yeah, this is bad. So first thing I'm noticing is that this pawn is actually just hanging. So what we can do is take, and if he takes back, then we'd be eradicating his weakness, right? That wouldn't be good. So what we can do is just take with the rook. Notice that this pawn in the center is attacked twice, but also defended twice. So we're not worried about losing it or anything. So we just win a pawn here. And notice now, since he's lost this pawn, both of these pawns are now incredibly weak. Okay, and the knight is now going to jump into the center of the board. Okay, and our opponent has decided to occupy this file with his rook. We can slide our queen over. Our queen needs to make contact with this pawn in order so we don't lose it. So if we think about the squares that we have access to, thinking this b2 square is a nice one. It also combines forces with the rook here. Allows us to invade onto the 7th rank if we would like, which is also nice. Furthering our advancements as much as possible here. And I'm really liking our position. We have clear plans. We can invade the 7th rank with our rook. We can put more attacks on this pawn here. We can start advancing our pawns in the center, which could eventually result in us creating a passed pawn. So there's a lot of different things that we can do here. First thing I'm noticing, though, is we can just create an attack on our opponent's knights by occupying the 7th rank. And that seems super easy to me. Let's just go with that. That's a threat. Our opponent has to respond to it. Notice here, this move, which does come quickly, is not a move that we have to worry about because we can drop our queen back to b1 and we're completely fine. And yes, we did have to play that move first because it does create an attack on our queen. So if we were to take, then they would take our queen and they would be winning. So now here, the threat on their knight still remains. And they have to do something about it. And some of you may have seen this move here, rook to b8. And it is not really scary because of the fact that we do have the double up. And we also have this bishop here covering up. So there's no way to pin the rook to the queen at all, which is really nice in this kind of position. All right. Well, our opponent is offering a trade. He's creating an attack on the knight, which, I mean, of course, we can just take this knight and trade it off. And I'm thinking that that is a pretty good idea. Yeah, let's just get rid of the knight. Again, we are up a pawn, so trading off pieces now is going to be favorable for us, but we don't want to give him too much activity for the trade. Trading is not our number one priority. And thinking about this move f3 soon, we want to restrict his knight from moving forward as much as possible. It also restricts his queen's control over this diagonal, which is nice. So we're going to play f3 here. And we're not worried about weakening dark squares immediately because we are the ones with the dark square bishop. We are the one who has all the control over dark squares, so we're not worried about any of that. Alright, and our opponent really wants to trade off queens. Do we just do it? I mean, it's not really... I don't think taking is good. I think allowing him to take us is probably better. I think his idea is he wants to attack this pawn, which is a weakness that we both have, these weak pawns. But his pawn's advanced. If he can win it, he can create a pass pawn very easily. So, I think that's his plan. It makes a bit of sense. And I think we can just ignore his last move and allow him to trade. And then after he trades, we're going to have a lot of control. Notice here, we're restricting his knight again with this move. So if he trades, we're going to take, and he's going to probably drop his rook like this. Yeah, and we're going to drop our rook over to defend. And he's going to be trying to win this pawn here. We're going to be trying to advance our pawns in the center and create a pass pawn. So we have two different plans here. All right. All right, so he's trying to win this pawn now. And is advancing? Like, what's wrong with advancing? Nothing. It doesn't look like anything's wrong with advancing. Alright, we're going to just advance the pawn. If he attacks it again, we can just move our bishop to this square. Notice we are up a pawn, so simplification is always going to be good for us. And the bishop for knight trade is completely favorable for us at this stage of the game. Alright. Now we're going to play a rook over. We want to restrict our opponent's access. Now notice our bishop is covering this square now, but we don't want to leave our bishop there forever. We want our bishop to be able to jump into the center here, so we're going to drop our... should we drop our rook back? Yeah, we are going to drop our rook back because we can initiate a full rook trade if we decide to put our rook here. We can get all the rooks off the board if our opponent doesn't do anything. So we are going to drop our rook back with the plan of playing rook c1 immediately. As soon as we can. Like, next move, we're going to play it if he doesn't do anything here. He might, move his king up, or he might move a pawn. Whatever he does, we're going to do the rook trade. Okay, and he drops his knight, and this is a perfect opportunity to get all the rooks off the board. Now notice here, he can't move this rook to the side because he will just blunder his rook. So here, we trade rooks. And if he trades rooks again, notice our bishop is going to be attacking this pawn, and we're already going to have a pass pawn on the side of the board. And our opponent notices that, and he says, we are not going to go for that. He wants to put his rook on this square here, and I do not want to allow him to do any of that. But also be very careful and look at your opponent's move before you make another move. He's made a panicked move, and he has blundered his rook. So we're going to take the rook, and that comes with his knight as well. If he takes back, we are able to fork his knight, and we are up a full rook, and we win the game. Excellent. Okay. I almost made a bad move there, but sometimes you get to just look at your opponent's moves very carefully, and you notice that they have blundered. Okay. Very interesting game. Let's go into some analysis here. Now, let's start with the opening. It's a London system. Our opponent played in a very symmetrical kind of way. They copied our first move, and we had a pretty much, this is a pretty much exactly symmetrical position. And c4 is a nice option, but I wanted to go for this d3, bishop d3 idea, hoping that he traded, and he did. And we get some sort of asymmetrical position here. Now that the pawn is on this square, he doesn't have a pawn there. We have some sort of asymmetry that can give us an advantage. Now he's decided to play his bishop out, and he trades immediately, which I feel like is unfavorable. And why is this unfavorable? Well, pawns in the center are valuable. Who's got more pawns in the center? It's definitely white. And white has ideas of e4 and c4 in this position, which are both going to be incredibly strong moves. Now e4 needs to be prepared here because you need something else defending the square. They've got two defenders and you've only got one when you advance e4. But if you could play c4 immediately here and just try to chip away at the center, you're going to have all these pawns and your opponent's just going to have this weak pawn on e6. So the pawns in the center, yes, they're doubled, but they're not going to be doubled for long, and they create an idea for white. And the open b file is also nice. Here we're able to win a tempo, force our opponent to make a weakening move, and we can start invading the position very quickly. As you can see here, our opponent found the only move that's maintained some sort of equality in the position. It's still way better for white, but the next worst move is just giving up a free pawn. So he finds the right move, we castle, knight drops back, and our queen could have gone to a3, which would have been a nice move. We dropped our queen back to b3, with still trying to prepare this c4 idea. And we play c4. Opponent goes for a5. We trade here in the center. Now notice our opponent really wants to trade queens. So yes, this move bishop to takes c4 does work. It does win a pawn, but it does allow a queen trade. In a version where I don't really want a queen trade. I want to keep the pressure. My queen is much better than his. He wants to simplify. Maybe he's a great endgame player. I don't know. One of the principles of chess is you want to make sure your opponent doesn't get exactly what they want. And here, he wants a queen trade. I'm not going to give him a queen trade. It's more frustrating for them to play. He advances, and here we're able to win a pawn very cleanly. We get a nice knight in the center of the board, a rook invading. The queen steps over, and he has a few different plans here. We like invading with the rook here. He wins the tempo back, but it's okay. We drop our queen back. And I just like taking. Now we're up a clean pawn in the center of the board. We have something to play for immediately, and that's advancing these pawns and creating a passed pawn. We also have good protection over this weakness over here, because this pawn is his target he should be playing for. And he ended up playing for it a little bit, but not enough in my opinion. We played f3, which apparently was a mistake. And knight d5 should have been played immediately here, trying to attack this bishop. But our opponent really wants this queen trade. I mean, he wants it more than anything else. And here I decide, I'm just going to let him have it. We advance, he takes, and he invades with this rook. I slide my rook over, and his rook comes up. A rook to b3 would have been nice, but I just advance here. And he slides his rook over, trying to control the file. And I like this regrouping I did. Slide my rook all the way back to b1. Now the next move, I offer the rook trade. And here I know that this rook trade is absolutely favorable for me. He trades, and now he is going to have to give up control of the file. And instead he gives up his rook. He puts it on a square that he just cannot access, and we win it. And here, this is winning a knight. He only has one move, king h7, and we win the knight, and we're just going to be able to advance our pawns and create a pass pawn. We can win this pawn and do it on the side of the board. So this kind of position is just completely won for white. There's no way for black to win. So it makes sense our opponent resigned. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a pretty good time making it. I almost, at the end there, let our opponent get away with murder, but we slowed down and we found the move. And I really appreciate you guys watching to the end of this video. If you did enjoy it, please consider liking, subscribing, or leaving a comment with your feedback. Any feedback is amazing. Good, bad, sad, anything. But yeah, I appreciate you guys, and have a good rest of your day. See ya.